They always say funerals bring out the truth in people, but sometimes they just bring out the performance. He stood there next to the casket, crisp black suit, polished shoes, tie perfectly knotted, like he was walking into a boardroom, not saying goodbye to his mother. And when he spoke, it wasn't grief, it was branding. Mom taught us to work hard, dream bigger, and always keep the family name strong, he said to the crowd, voice steady, practiced. And I plan to honor her legacy, starting today. The room clapped. I didn't. I stood near the back, quiet, fingers curled around the folded program in my hand. The same fingers that had held hers when she was too weak to speak. The same hands that washed her hair when no one else showed up. He never saw the tubes. He never smelled the hospital. He never heard her whisper, "I'm scared." But here he was, the man of the family, the new face of the company, the one who got the front row seat, the final word, and probably the keys. And the worst part? Everyone believed him. They saw a grieving son, a strong leader, the heir. But me? I saw a liar in a custom-tailored suit. And while he stood there, making promises to a room full of mourners, I remembered something different, a memory, a photo, a frame on my mother's shelf that didn't belong. And what I found hidden inside it. Let's just say, he wasn't the only one with a plan. She started forgetting things that winter. Small stuff at first, where she left her glasses, what day it was, how long she'd been sitting by the window. Then came the weight loss, the trembling, the phone calls that ended in silence. The doctor said, stage 4, like it was just a chapter in a book. But I was the one turning the pages. Every day, I cooked bland soups she barely touched. Changed bed sheets, soaked in sweat and fear. Read the same magazine articles aloud, again and again, because the sound of my voice calmed her more than the morphine ever could. And where was he? Somewhere between New York and Austin. Sending money, sure. Generous transfers followed by texts like, "Hang in there. You're doing amazing." No calls, no visits, only excuses with stock market buzzwords. She needs privacy. I don't want to upset her. I'll fly in when it gets serious. It was already serious. One night, she pulled me close, breath like paper, and whispered, "Promise me, you won't let him take everything." I didn't know what she meant. I thought maybe it was the meds, maybe the pain talking. But deep down, part of me knew. There was something she hadn't said, something she was afraid to say out loud. So I just nodded. I held her hand and whispered, "I promise." It was the kind of promise that doesn't feel real until the moment it's tested. And that moment, it was coming faster than I realized. Because the minute she was gone, he didn't wait. Not for grief, not for healing, not for me. He saw a power vacuum and stepped right in. After the last mourner left and the casseroles stopped showing up on the porch, I thought maybe we'd finally talk. Not as rivals, not as estranged siblings, just two people who'd lost the same woman. He sat across from me at the kitchen table, the same table where Mom used to slice avocados and hum old boleros under her breath. His phone buzzed twice before he even said a word. Then, like it was a casual Monday morning, he cleared his throat and said, "So I'll step in as acting CEO for now, just until we sort out the paperwork." No emotion, no discussion, just a business decision. I stared at him, trying to find the brother I used to know, the one who built Lego cities with me in the living room, while Mom danced with a mop in the background. but all I saw was a man already planning next quarter. I asked him what sorting out meant. He smiled, that politician kind of smile. Don't worry, we'll make sure you're taken care of. You'll get your part. Your part, like we were dividing up leftovers. I wanted to scream, to throw the coffee mug across the room and remind him that I'd been the one holding her hand when she stopped breathing, that I'd lived this grief day by day, while he lived in penthouses and press releases. But I didn't. I just nodded, like a fool, because part of me still wanted to believe him, still thought, maybe, just maybe, this time, he meant it. But by the end of that week, I would learn just how much of a lie that promise really was. And all it took was one picture frame. And what was hidden inside it? It was the quiet that got to me, the kind that settles in after the flowers wilt and the sympathy texts dry up, when even the grief starts to feel routine. I wandered through her house like a ghost, touching things I wasn't ready to let go of. A faded sweater on the couch, the scent of her lotion on a doorknob, the soft crackle of old floorboards that still knew her footsteps. And then I saw it. A photo frame sitting crooked on the hallway shelf. It was one of those cheap wooden ones you get from Walgreens. Nothing fancy. Just a picture of the three of us at some family barbecue. All smiles and sunburns. But the corner didn't sit right, literally. The back panel looked warped, like someone had jammed something inside it that didn't belong. Curious, I flipped it over. There was a thin piece of tape holding the backing down. Not factory tape. This was intentional. Tucked beneath the photo was a plastic flash drive. Small, scratched, with a strip of pink nail polish across the edge. Her color. She had hidden it. Not in her safe. Not in her purse. In a frame. Something sentimental. Something easy to overlook. My fingers trembled as I held it. I didn't know what I was expecting. Maybe old photos. Maybe her will. Maybe just her voice. One last time. But deep down, I could feel it. This wasn't just a memory stick. This was a message. One she didn't trust anyone to find. Except me. So I slipped it into my pocket, heart pounding. And that night, when I opened it on my laptop, the truth she'd buried came roaring to life. The screen lit up, cold blue in the darkness of my childhood bedroom. I sat on the edge of the bed, knees pulled up, clutching the flash drive like it might vanish if I blinked. There were 3 files. The first one was a PDF. I clicked. It wasn't photos. It wasn't memories. It was a document. Stamped. Signed. Dated 6 weeks before she passed. A revised will. Not the one we'd seen at the lawyer's office. The one that left everything in the hands of the responsible son. Number this was different, wildly different. In this version, she left the company. Her shares, her voting rights, even the damn office building, to me. Not split, not temporary, full control. And the reason? Buried in a paragraph near the end. Typed in that trembling font you get when someone's hands can't hold a pen steady anymore. I have lost trust in my son's ability to act in the best interest of this business. After reviewing financial records and private accounts, I discovered unauthorized transfers made under the guise of investment, losses that were hidden from me during my illness. I couldn't breathe. I read that line again and again. Losses? Hidden transfers. She knew. She'd found out. It wasn't just about her not trusting him to run the business. It was betrayal. Financial. Personal. A quiet theft while she lay in bed, getting weaker by the hour. And instead of confronting him, she rewrote the future in secret. She didn't fight. She didn't scream. She left proof, a digital paper trail, witnesses. Even the notary was a hospice nurse, someone who'd seen her condition with their own eyes. She'd built her legacy one brick at a time. This wasn't just about business. It was about protection. She didn't want to win. She wanted to make sure he didn't bury me with her. The second file was titled, "Read This Last." But the third one? That one had no title at all. Just a single icon, a speaker. And when I clicked it, her voice filled the room. It started with static, a soft hum, like the room itself was holding its breath. Then, her voice. Not the fragile whisper I'd grown used to in those final months. No, this was stronger, clearer, like she'd recorded it on a day when the pain took a step back, and her spirit stepped forward. If you're hearing this, it means I couldn't tell you in person. My chest tightened. I didn't want to burden you. You already gave up so much, more than he'll ever understand. There was a pause, the kind that feels heavier than words. I found the statements. I saw where the money went. Not just the crypto, the shell accounts, the silence when I asked. He thought I wouldn't notice, thought I was too tired to care. She wasn't angry. That's what broke me. There was no rage in her tone, no bitterness, just sadness. The kind you only hear from someone who's already accepted that trust is gone, and there's no getting it back. I kept quiet because I didn't want to make you choose. But I see now, that was a mistake. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was thick, alive. You're stronger than you know. You always were. And this business? It was never about money. It was about dignity, purpose, family. If I leave it to him, it dies with me. Another pause. A soft exhale. Don't fight him in court. You'll lose years of your life. He's good at spinning things, good at turning guilt into gold. Let him think he won, for now. But don't let him take what's not his. I'm trusting you with the rest. That was it. The audio clicked off. No goodbye. No, I love you. Just the kind of truth that doesn't need wrapping. I sat there, staring into the darkness, the sound of her voice still echoing through the room. And for the first time since the funeral, I knew exactly what I had to do. I didn't call ahead. I showed up, unannounced. At the office he'd already claimed like some kind of prize. His name was on the door, his face, on the company website, same signature smile, same recycled lines about legacy and vision. But when I walked in, holding a manila folder and not making eye contact with anyone, he looked up like he'd seen a ghost. "Didn't expect to see you here," he said, standing a little too slowly. I didn't bother with pleasantries. I dropped the folder on his desk. It made a sound louder than paper should, the kind of sound that carries weight. Inside, the real will, the notarized copy, the PDF she signed with shaking hands. Everything. He flipped through it quickly, expression barely changing, just a small twitch at the corner of his mouth. The same twitch I used to see when he was lying about breaking Dad's watch, or sneaking out after curfew. "Where'd you get this?" I said nothing. "This doesn't change anything," he said after a beat. "No court will side with you. You have no resources, no leverage. You think a flash drive and a few files are going to take me down?" He was calm. Too calm. Like he'd rehearsed this. He leaned back in his chair, folding his hands like a CEO talking to an intern. And then, "This part I'll never forget," he smiled. "Look, you've been through a lot. I get it. But this is not the hill you want to die on. There it was. The charm, the control, the coldness underneath it all. But what he didn't realize? I wasn't here to win. Not today. I stood up, picked the folder back up, and as I walked to the door, I turned just enough to say it. You're right. Court won't save me, but something else will. He didn't ask what, and I didn't tell him. Because the game he thought he was playing, I'd already changed the rules. You ever see someone post about grief and know they're faking it? 3 days after I walked out of his office, he uploaded a tribute video, black and white photos of Mom, slow piano music, captions like, "She taught me everything I know." Legacy lives on through leadership. The comments poured in. Such a good son. She must be so proud of you. Real men honor their mothers like this. And all I could do was stare at the screen. Because while he was posing with her urn in front of our childhood fireplace, I was still cleaning out the closet where she kept her old wigs, the ones she wore after the chemo made her scalp bleed. He turned her death into content, even launched a campaign in her name. The Hernandez Foundation for Women in Business. Fancy logo, glossy press release, a launch party with champagne and Instagram influencers. But ask anyone in that room what she loved, what she built, what she sacrificed. None of them could tell you. He wasn't grieving. He was rebranding, using her memory as leverage, turning sympathy into shares, pain into PR, and people bought it. The image, the story, the polished version of himself that made no room for truth, or for me. I saw the likes, the investor reposts, the local news article calling him the son who stepped up. And I realized something. He didn't just take the company. He was erasing me, rewriting history in real time. But if he wanted to build a public image off a private lie, I could flip the same strategy. Because truth doesn't need likes. It just needs light. And I was done being quiet. I started with LinkedIn. Not to post, just to watch. I pulled up his connections, scrolled through press mentions, tracked every handshake he'd turned into a contract. VC firms, angel investors, former classmates turned fund managers, people who loved buzzwords more than balance sheets. And while they toasted to a family-first business model, I was organizing files. Not to sue, but to expose. See, the law moves slow, but whispers, they move fast. I drafted a single email, no threats, no emotion, just the facts. Screenshots of the real will, financial records Mom flagged, transfer logs from private crypto accounts, and that audio file where she quietly said he hid everything. Then I did what he never expected. I sent it to them, blind copy, no signature, no return address, just truth, delivered straight into the inboxes of the people propping up his empire. And I waited. 2 days passed. Silence. But then, phone calls he didn't return, meetings that got canceled, a tweet from one of his biggest backers, vague but sharp. Due diligence matters. Always ask what's under the rug. And the best part? He didn't know where it came from. He started scrambling, updating contracts, deleting old posts, pausing the foundation out of respect for the family. His smile faded. The press backed off. Investors ghosted him mid-conference. He was leaking credibility like a boat with holes in every direction. And the more he tried to plug them, the faster it sank. Not because I screamed, not because I sued, but because the one thing he never thought I had, receipts, the kind you can't rewrite, the kind that speak for themselves. And in a world built on image, nothing terrifies a liar more than proof. The first time I saw the crack, it wasn't in a headline or a public outburst. It was in his voice, a voicemail, 14 seconds long, where he sounded unsure. No script, no swagger, just an offhand mumble. Hey, call me back when you can. Something's off. That's when I knew it was working. Deals collapsed like dominoes. Partners pulled out without explanation. Someone leaked the memo, the one where Mom questioned his integrity. It made its way through the industry like wildfire, passed from inbox to inbox, until even his most loyal allies started asking quiet questions. He tried to spin it, tried to pivot, rebrand, bounce back. But this wasn't a bad quarter. This was rot in the foundation. And the people who once clapped for his every move, now they stepped back, just far enough to avoid the splash when it all caved in. The foundation dissolved, the board froze his authority, and in a final twist of irony, the business he'd tried to steal ended up in arbitration, with me listed as the last verified executor. He didn't scream, didn't fight, he just disappeared, took down his tribute posts, deleted the foundation's website, vanished from the public view he once clung to like oxygen. And the most beautiful part? He never figured out how. Because I never gloated, never posted, never made a scene. He was looking for a fire. I gave him smoke. He was bracing for war. I let silence hollow him out. And in that silence, he heard the echo of everything he thought he buried. They handed me the keys like it was nothing. No ribbon, no cameras, no ceremony. Just a plain envelope and a firm handshake in a neutral-toned office where no one said the word congratulations. Because this wasn't a victory people celebrated. It was a transfer. Silent, administrative, heavy. The lobby looked exactly the same. Same fake plants, same receptionist pretending not to remember the funeral. But walking through it now, everything felt different. Because I wasn't a visitor anymore. This was my name on the lease, my hands on the wheel. And yet, it didn't feel triumphant. It felt lonely. The office Mom once used still smelled faintly of lavender and black coffee. Her planner was gone, her mugs boxed up, her favorite pen sitting crooked in the drawer, like it had been waiting for someone to finish the sentence she never got to write. I sat in her chair. The leather was worn where her elbow used to rest when she'd think too long before speaking. I ran my fingers over the grain of the desk and tried to imagine what she felt in those last weeks. Knowing time was slipping, watching someone she loved twist her legacy into leverage. This wasn't about running a company. It wasn't about proving him wrong. It was about bringing something back. Not profit, not prestige, but the thing she believed in before the numbers ever mattered. People, dignity, integrity. I didn't feel powerful. I felt responsible. Responsible to the employees he had discarded, to the community she quietly supported, to the name she built without hashtags or headlines. I took the keys, but what I really inherited was the work, and I was ready to rebuild it from the foundation she actually left behind. Not in money, not in shares, but in how she made people feel when they walked through this door. The first thing I did wasn't call a meeting. It was call a name. Marisol, my mom's old assistant. She hadn't stepped foot in the building since the day she was let go. No warning, just a cold email from HR, signed by someone who never met her. She cried when I called, not because she needed the job, but because she thought Mom would have wanted someone to remember her name. And she wasn't the only one. I pulled out Mom's old notebooks, not the ledgers, the spiral ones. Hand-scribbled to-do lists, wrinkled sticky notes. Inside were names, birthdays, notes like Miguel's daughter, starting college, send flowers. People she saw, people she cared about, even when the business got busy. So I started reaching out, one by one, the quiet voices who'd been pushed aside during his restructuring. The front desk clerk who used to bring Mom Cuban coffee. The warehouse worker who once fixed a delivery van on his day off. The bookkeeper who'd stayed late every tax season, unpaid, because she believed in the mission. I didn't promise them bonuses, or promotions, or glossy brochures. I promised them something else, a seat back at the table. Because this company was never meant to be a stage. It was supposed to be a kitchen, where people gathered, shared, built something with their hands and their hearts. We didn't talk about quarterly goals. We talked about what Mom stood for: honesty, work that matters, and making sure no one ever felt invisible inside these walls again. Some came back, some didn't, but every single person I spoke to said the same thing. She never forgot me. Neither would I, because this wasn't just her company. It was her legacy, kept alive by the people she lifted, not the ones who tried to stand on her shoulders. I didn't send a text, didn't knock, didn't wait for a thank you or a fight. I just left the envelope on his doorstep. Plain, unmarked, tucked beneath the edge of the welcome mat like junk mail. Except it wasn't. Inside, a single letter, not from me, from her. I found it folded between the pages of one of Mom's old cookbooks, tucked inside the chapter on arroz con pollo, like she'd been saving it for a night that never came. It was handwritten, not typed, faint ink, careful script, no edits. You were my firstborn, and for the longest time, I thought that meant I owed you more. More forgiveness, more trust, more chances. No opening, no dear, just the truth. But what you did, what you hid from me, from her, from yourself, it broke something I don't think I can fix. She didn't talk about the money, or the crypto, or the fake foundation. She talked about us, about the afternoons he used to help her rearrange office furniture just to make her laugh, about the time he cut his hand trying to fix her old printer, and cried when she said she was proud of him. You were good once. I know that version of you still exists, somewhere. But I don't trust him to run this company. I don't trust him to protect her. She meant me. And the final line? This isn't punishment. It's peace. If you're holding this, it means I gave it to someone I trusted to deliver what I couldn't say. I didn't write a note. I didn't need to. Because some messages don't need punctuation. They just need to land. And as I stepped off his porch, one quiet final time, I didn't feel powerful. I felt released, because revenge is loud. But closure? Closure whispers. Days passed. No call, no email, not even a text to ask, did you mean to send this? Just silence. At first, I checked my phone too often, expecting something, a reaction, an explosion, maybe even an apology. But nothing came. And then I stopped waiting. Because some silences aren't absence, they're admission. I heard through someone that he left the city, sublet his apartment, walked away from the startup world entirely. No new ventures, no press releases, just gone. The man who once lived for headlines had vanished from every feed. And in that emptiness, something strange happened. I stopped needing the closure I thought I deserved. Because this was never about revenge. Not really. It was about truth. And once truth has room to breathe, it doesn't need a witness. I went back to work. Not power suit and glass boardroom work. I mean real work. Mornings in the community room, talking to employees who stayed through the storm. Friday lunches my mom used to organize. Foil trays, folding chairs, bad coffee that still somehow tasted like home. I didn't become a CEO. I became someone else entirely. Someone who understood why she hid the flash drive in a picture frame. Because she knew power's not always in a title. Sometimes it's in who keeps showing up after everyone else walks away. I never heard from him again. And honestly, that was the answer I didn't know I needed. No drama, no confrontation, no final scene. Just the quiet truth. Not every story ends with justice. But some end with peace. Some mornings, I still open the door to her office and forget she's not sitting there. The desk is clean now, but the sunlight hits it the same way. Warm, golden stripes across the wood. The blinds still creak when you tug them, just like they used to when she'd pause mid-call and say, "Hold on, I need more light to think." And the smell? It's faint, but it's there. Earl Grey, the kind with real bergamot, not the cheap kind. She used to bring a little thermos every day, set it next to her notepad, said it made her feel steady, like the world could spin, but she wouldn't spill. Sometimes I sit in her chair, not to run things, just to feel close. I close my eyes and hear her voice echoing in small things. A sticky note left in a drawer, the soft clink of ceramic when I reach for her old teacup. And no matter how much time passes, it always surprises me how much presence can live in absence. She's not here, but somehow, everything still remembers her. The team does. They still talk about her during breaks. Not in big, dramatic stories, but in little things. Like how she always remembered who liked sugar in their coffee. Or how she once gave up her office heater because someone in the warehouse had none. Those aren't business strategies. They're legacies. And maybe that's what this was all about from the beginning. Not stock, not succession, but memory, the kind you can't fake or steal. She built something that couldn't be burned down, because it wasn't made of numbers. It was made of people, of care, of tea leaves and trust. And now, every time I open the door, that scent reminds me who I'm really working for. And if you've ever been silenced, not by shouting, but by the slow, quiet erosion of being overlooked, underestimated, rewritten out of your own story, then you know what this feels like. That ache, that rage, that strange, hollow strength it takes to stand up without applause. To hold on to the truth, even when no one's clapping. You're not alone. Not everyone gets a courtroom, or closure, or some neat, cinematic ending where the bad guy gets dragged away and you ride off into the sunset. Sometimes, you get a hallway, and a memory, and a room that still smells like someone you loved, and you rebuild. Brick by brick, voice by voice. Quietly, but with more power than they'll ever understand. Because of the real revenge, it isn't taking them down, it's rising anyway. So if you've ever been erased, or pushed aside, or told to be realistic when your heart was breaking, I see you. And if you've stayed silent because you thought no one would believe your side, this story is for you. Because sometimes justice doesn't shout, it whispers, and it outlasts the noise. So tell me, have you ever had to choose between being polite and being real? Between staying silent or finally saying enough? Tell me in the comments. I read everyone. Like if this story hit home. Subscribe if you want more like it. Because around here, we don't just tell stories. We take our power back, one voice at a time.